Most businesses treat CRM partner selection like a standard procurement exercise. They build a requirements document, send it out to market, partners get scored against their price, their accreditations, and the cheapest, most compliant answer always wins. The problem is none of that predicts whether the project will actually succeed. So in this video, Max and Ollie from Collier Pickard talk through what the selection process usually gets wrong, what a board should be asking instead. Max has 5 years of experience on the consultancy side, and Ollie has recently come across from the other business side, so between them you're getting both perspectives on the same conversation.
I think as the business has developed, we are dealing with a lot more RFPs, and of course that's opening opportunities for wider and larger deals, but of course that opens the next door of all the requirements that these businesses are needing to kind of proceed with an RFP. With their RFPs, they're really much a tick box exercise. They want to know kind of your previous accreditations. They want to know your case studies and your awards you might have won in that space. But ultimately, does that criteria actually help in implementing a system for your business? Usually not. It's more of, does that CRM platform have the required features that can actually withstand the growth of your business? Is the partner that's actually supporting you with that, are they listening to your features? Are they just kind of hearing what you want to say, just nodding nicely and just implementing the problem out of the box? From that, it's quite variable. I think we're seeing some people are purely just focused on price. You know, if you're the cheapest, you're the one for us. But they don't also think about how that partner is going to manage that relationship with you moving forwards. Are they going to be one of those partners that just puts in the cheapest product and disappears soon as it's happened? So then when that CRM system's in place, are they just kind of never to be heard of again? Or are you worth kind of having, maybe spending that little bit more on someone that's got the experience in your sector, has got, actually spent the time to understand your requirements, because ultimately the right partner shouldn't be let's say a yes person, they should be a why person, because if they can understand why your business is making these changes, then the system and their outline of how this is going to work is kind of going to be more suited to you instead of just another generic off-the-shelf product.
And really, when you dig into what the requirements are in those documents, they're quite often not actually revealing what the actual problems that business is facing. Quite often, if you do see what a problem is, or what problem a business is experiencing within their RFP, it's often actually just a symptom to an underlying problem.
Yeah.
And not building that relationship through discovery calls, through actually getting to know each department in the business, it's quite often really hard then to actually build what the business actually needs.
A CRM system shouldn't just be built on price, it should be built on fixing a problem. And if you know those metrics from the get-go, it's a lot more easily attained to say, yes, we can tackle these and this is how we're going to do it, instead of saying, I just want a new platform because ours is too expensive.
What are some of the biggest challenges you find that can't really be fixed through just an RFP?
I think some of the main ones is not having proper stakeholder conversations, because they are looking at the business as a whole. This needs to be improved. We're going to go out to market to try and get it fixed. But they're not taking the step back and saying, right, let's figure out the key areas of the business that need to be focused on. So why shouldn't we be speaking with our sales director or operations director and speaking with the people below them to say, we are looking to do this as a business. What are your pain points? Because ultimately, if you're not speaking to the people that are using it day in, day out, and you're just going to chuck in a new system, you're not fixing the problem. You're just kind of adding something new for them to try and understand and work on. And then you might already have kind of a employee experience problem of them not understanding your solutions as it is. So if you're chucking a new one in there, you're just kind of adding more weight to that. because then the CRM doesn't just become a problem, it's a retention problem of your staff, because ultimately, if that's going to be their main source of truth for their work, kind of, 5 days a week, you want to make sure they're happy. And that's one of those processes there. If the team are happy, that follows through with your clients as well.
If you're in a board meeting, what is the criteria that you would assess a vendor against that you think predicts success?
I think realistically, the key areas you want to be focusing on is kind of what time can be saved through implementing the right system. At the end of the day, you want to be having those metrics within a platform to say, we want to be reducing kind of the time spent with the team by 20% on manual tasks, as an example. So then the partner can look away and figure out what automations could make sense to help with that process. There's of course, the cost saving benefits is, how quickly are we going to get our money back through the investment of your chosen platform. And it's also that relationship side as well, is if we take you on as a partner, what will that journey be like? Are you going to be the sort of partner that implements a system for us and just fades into the darkness, or are you going to be with us growing, growing as the business does? Ultimately, having a partner come in to support that and become kind of that like side part of your business is always the key ones, because at the end of the day, you don't want to be constantly repeating yourself in terms of these are the tasks we want to be doing, these are the metrics we want to focus on. The right partner should already know and be aligned in what you want to do as a business, because then as the CRM world develops, that partner should know, okay, well, this person mentioned this about how they want to adapt into AI or adapt into marketing. This is what the platform is bringing forwards, and they should be openly coming forward saying, this is going to help achieve your goals quicker, and this is what we're going to do to get there.
Yeah, and I think that's something that a partner needs to get to, almost away from just the generic RFP or tender documentation, because it's really hard when you receive that documentation, to find those metrics that you're going to save them this time, you're going to increase their sales by this much, you're going to improve productivity. It's really hard to find that when you've just received documentation saying these are our requirements, how much is it going to cost to build?
Yeah.
So partners really should be challenging those requirements. And it shouldn't just be here's our requirements, what's your price? It should be a conversation. And a partner really needs to challenge what that business believes should be built, because at the end of the day, it's the partner that's the expert in building the CRM. It's the partner that knows the real value that can be gained from implementing a CRM correctly. So they should be really challenging those. And I think for me, that's a real key to success. If I've gone out to the market and I've said, we think we need this as a business, if I've got partners coming back to me saying, well, no, actually, we think you should do it this way instead, that's a bigger indicator to success for me than someone that just says, yeah, okay, we can build this is how much it's going to cost.
Yeah, and I think it's part of that element of being open to those conversations, because the difficulty as well is you don't want to have kind of that abrasive conversation saying kind of, no, this is what I believe that our business needs because I'm in it. Whereas kind of those CRM partners have worked on a multitude of different industries and a multitude of different platforms, and they start seeing kind of those correlations of, we have done it this way, but this has led to this outcome. That's why you should kind of, it's difficult to initially trust that new partner if it's the first time you've ever spoken to them. But that's why it's worth having those conversations in between that RFP process to build that trust, and figure out, okay, well, ultimately these people do know what they're talking about.
How do you think that businesses should include these things in their selection process?
I think one of the metrics to kind of decide who I should be going for as a business should be more of kind of a history of that partner. It should be more of not the case of this is how many clients that partner's worked with. It's more of how do you see this relationship working moving forwards? Because the people that are more passionate about working with their clients are the ones that should be worth having those conversations with. It's also the case of these are the solutions we've put forward within our RFP. We are open to those, open to responses saying, do you feel that's the right one? And ultimately that should be part of your scoring system of, are we getting kind of 30 to 40% of these responses just saying, yes, what you're suggesting is right? And then the ones that are saying, actually, we feel like this should be the other, this should be a different product or a different solution. Those are the ones you should spend probably a little bit more time with, because they're, you don't want to be kind of a sheep within the process. You don't want to be kind of, as your business develops, you want to be kind of standing out amongst the rest. You don't want to be following the same. And the people that are suggesting those alternative routes might not always be the right options, but they're still worth having those conversations with. Where you've been more of the consumer side, you've been looking at selecting products for previous businesses. Now you're coming into Collier Pickard. How are you finding that whole selection process differing?
I think now businesses nowadays are trying to take the emotion out of buying things. And they're putting in policies and procedures that their teams have to follow. So it's not just, I really like this salesperson, so I'm going to go with them, which I think is a good thing ultimately, because just liking the salesperson doesn't necessarily lead to a successful outcome. Although having said that, you do definitely need to have trust in the person that's selling you the product. And you need to have trust in the supplier that you're going to select. So yeah, I definitely find that, well, one of the things that I've found is the selection process, it tends to be a lot longer than I've found in the past. And the selection process tends to be a little more black and white than what I found in the past. It tends to be a little bit more of just, this is our requirements, how much is it going to cost? Where I think the better way of going about it is, this is what we think our requirements are. Can you give us a bit of advice on what you think our requirements should be? And from there, we'll build a package together. So when you're going through your selection process, I think it's a much better option to almost have a different solution from each option, and not just have this is what we want built, you tell me how much it's going to be to build it on your platform, how much is it going to be to build it on this platform, because then you really don't get the full strength out of each different platform. Whenever you go to buy anything, your kind of default is, let's look at case studies, let's look at accreditations.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't necessarily be the default. And
the vendor selection probably shouldn't be hiding behind the product. It should be the people that are implementing the product, because from that side of things, the that team are going to be the ones that's seeing that implementation through, instead of just buying it off the shelf and hoping for the best.
At Collier Pickard, we've spent more than 23 years working independently across CRM platforms. That independence matters because we're not steering you towards a product that we're tied to, and we're not going to price up your requirements document and just tell you what you want to hear. If you're going through a selection process right now, or you're about to, we're worth a conversation with. You can start at collierpickard.co.uk.